Prior to the start of the 1990 season, the best way to appreciate the splendor and prosperity of the Pittsburgh Pirates was to embrace the glorious past. The 70s were a decade of domination. The Bucs won 6 division titles and were twice world champions. But the 80s were a far different story, with one unhappy ending after another. There were 4 last-place finishes, including 3 in a row. Sure, there were celebrations in Pittsburgh, but mostly by other teams from other cities. Gray skies began to clear up for the Bucs in '88, with promising new players leading the team to a second-place finish. The drought seemed over.
Broken bat right back to Gott. He'll go to first, and the Pirates win again. Great catch by R.J. Reynolds. And the beat goes on. Do you believe it? Woo!
But second place in '88 was followed by 5th place in '89. Injury set the team limping once again in a losing direction. The high-flying optimism generated the year before was stuck in a holding pattern, which meant that at the start of the new decade, the Pirates were at the crossroads. Would the 1990 Pirates be contenders or pretenders?
Remember the close ones, and there were a few. You never gave up trying, wanting to come through. Well, this is your moment. You've learned how to fly. We'll remember that long road once more, then kiss it goodbye. You gotta believe it's your turn. You gotta believe it's true. In Pittsburgh, we believe the Pirates will come through. You gotta believe it's your turn. You gotta believe, yes, believe it's true. You know that we believe 'cause we believe in you. You gotta believe it's your turn. You gotta believe it's true. That we believe.
The Pirates defeat the St. Louis Cardinals, and there was no doubt about it.
The story of the 1990 Pittsburgh Pirates. Opening day was played at New York's Shea Stadium, where the Pirates had found it tough to win. The powerful Mets were overwhelming favorites to win the division. But fittingly, the Pirates burst their bubble right away. Doug Drabek was impressive as the Bucs' opening day pitcher, and he proved just as effective with a bat.
Base hit into left field. Flies into the Bears score. Lead goes to third, and the Pirates lead 2-1.
The numbers were revealing in the 12-3 rout, most notably those of Andy Van Slyke, who became just the 4th Pirate ever to hit 2 home runs on opening day. The 12 runs scored were the most for the Pirates on opening day in 55 years, a sign of good things to come for the offense. 5 Pirate pitchers combined on a 3-hitter, handing the Mets their worst opening day loss ever.
Van Slyke going back on the ball. He's got it, and the Pirates have won it. The Bucs win the opener 1990.
The Pirates took 2 of 3 in New York, delivering an early message that in 1990, they'd be no pushovers.
The New York Mets, they knew that we were good. They weren't going to let things like that slide. We were good, and we knew they were good.
They made a major statement there that they were going to be a tough team to be, or be a force at least to be reckoned with. In '88, they were a great team, I thought, and we just kind of pulled away late in the year. In '89, they had some injuries. In '90, early in the year, they made it known early that they were going to be there.
After a brief homestand, the Pirates set sail on their first major road trip of the season. 13 games, culminating on the West Coast. The 5-city road test, which included 2 one-day stops in St. Louis, saw the Pirates win an incredible 10 of 13.
And Doug goes after the first pitch, a fly ball into left center field. The ball is gone. Oh, boy. Shiver meets embers. How about that?
But it wasn't just Drabek. Everyone was contributing as the Pirates struck gold in California. When they headed south to San Diego, another hero stepped forward. This stop on the tour turned out to be a big hit for Wally Backman.
tell you, you don't have a chance very often for a 6-for-6 night, but here he is.
And there it is, number 6. Wally Backman with 6 base hits tonight. Fans applauding here, rightfully so, in San Diego.
The Pirates Roadshow was a busy one, but the reviews were excellent, and it showed no signs of closing.
When you go on the West Coast and you had the schedule we had, when you had to make 5 different stops in 3 cities and come back 10-3 on a road trip like that, it just proved to me that this club was ready, and it was time for us to move to a new level, which happened.
That new level was first place, where the Bucs sat at the beginning of May. The Pirates had some breathing room, too, and a view at the top to enjoy it. While the road had been good, there's no place like home, where the Bucs won 8 of their next 9. Neil Heaton was as responsible as any for the Pirates' fast start. Thanks to a new pitch, he won his first 6 decisions of 90, giving him a personal 11-game win streak. The innovative pitch has a funky grip and an even funkier name.
Well, I call it the screw knuckle change because, number one, I turn it over like a screwball. I hold it like a knuckle curveball, and it's an off-speed pitch, which I call, it's change-up, so I call it the screw knuckle change.
Neil has always been looking for an off-speed pitch, and he came up with a semi-fork ball. He has shorter fingers, and he twists the ball as he throws it. And what it does is put the same kind of spin as a sinker on the ball, and yet the ball comes out 15 mile an hour slower than his fastball. And it's a pitch that he's able to get over the plate, and for the first time in his life, he's able to deceive someone as well as overpower him.
Heaton's new pitch was extremely tough for the opposition to hit, but it was even tougher for his teammates to explain.
So screw, and knuckle, and a change. And the only thing it does is make the hitter miss the ball.
It's pretty nasty. It seems to do everything the pitch describes, the screw knuckle change. It has a little bit of that and a little bit of a knuckle to it. And takes a pitch at you on the way there, and it's got a little bit of everything.
It's very confusing. Sometimes it knuckles and it doesn't change. Sometimes it changes and it doesn't. I guess I can't say that.
One thing that's easy to say, Neil Heaton was a breath of fresh air for the Pirates in 1990. Something eerie was in the air in Pittsburgh on a rainy May 28th as the Pirates hosted the Dodgers. In the 5th inning, Hubie Brooks was hit by a bob walk pitch and the temperature started rising. The next inning, Tim Belcher retaliated, hitting Don Slaught. The pot of water seemed ready to boil over as both dugouts emptied. Bobby Bonilla was especially angered over which one of his teammates had been mistreated.
RJ and Bobby Bonilla very upset, particularly Bonilla. Bonilla restrained by Gene Lamont.
I knew that Don had been hit early in his career in his face, so it sort of woke me up a little bit.
The umpires, Jim Leland and Tommy Lasorda, all conferring, and it's Leland who is livid.
Well, those things happen in baseball, and they can get ugly, and you don't want that to happen, but you have to make sure that you stand your ground. You can't be bullied.
Later in the game, Randy Kramer threw inside to Belcher and was immediately ejected. The game was stopped again, and as the tension grew, so did the need for restraint. Jim Leland was ejected, but was obviously and understandably displeased. When play resumed, Belcher plucked off whichever Pirate feathers weren't already ruffled. He dominated the Bucs with a one-hitter through 8. This was only strike 2 on Bonilla, which Bobby eventually realized. It provided only a momentary distraction, though, because Bonilla didn't last much longer. The Pirates trailed 5-1 with 3 outs to go. The 1990 Pirates were many things, and quitters weren't one of them. Pat Perry was brought in to mop up in the 9th, but the Pirates regrouped and pulled themselves off the floor. Backman ignited the rally, and Jay Bell kept it going.
Backman around second on his way to third, and Bell goes into second. The Bucs have 2 men on, runners in scoring position, nobody out.
Before you could bat an eye, the Bucs had the tying run on deck. A wild pitch by Perry brought Backman home, and the lead was reduced to 5-2. After a walk to Van Slyke, Bonilla ripped the ball to short. When Mike Sharperson's throw sailed wide, Bell scored the Pirates' 3rd run. Bonilla was held at first, but the Bucs now trailed by just 2 with 1 out. 1 out later, Sid Bream came through.
Bobby will stop. No, he's going to go to third. They were going to give Bobby third. He takes it as center fielder Gonzalez nonchalantly made the play.
Jay Howell came in to pitch and walked Slot. The Bucks trailed 5-3 with the bases loaded, 2 outs, and Jose leaned at bat.
2 runs in here in the bottom of the ninth. The Bucks need 2 more at least. 3-2 pitch, runners going. And a ground ball, face it into right field. Bonilla scores. Here comes Reedus. The throw to the plate is offline. The Pirates tie the game. The ball rolls away. Here comes Doug Slot. The throw to the plate. He is safe. The Buccos win. The Pirates did it. They came from behind to beat the Dodgers.
Winning to me is God giving you something to do on this earth, which is baseball for Andy Van Slyke and for all the rest of my teammates, and using the talent to the most of your ability, regardless of what the results are. If you do that, you will win.
As May turned into June, the Pirates were still winning and still a first-place team. Any team is as strong as its individuals, and the Pirates had some strong ones.
You always look for something that you can say about each one of your players that is maybe a little different from what you say about another player. And the one thing about Bobby Bonilla is he's a superstar that never wants a day off.
Bobby can be 0 for 30 and you would not know that he's upset, because he's really not upset, because he knows he's capable of going 30 for 30 the next time, and that's how much confidence this man has in himself.
Drive to right field. Brunansky going back. The ball is well hit. Go ball. Get out of here. It is gone. The 1-0. Swung on. Line drive to left field. Leach going back at the track. Going. It is gone. Bobby Bonilla. A home run to left. Bobby swings a drive to right field. There's no doubt about it. It's gone.
There's no doubt about the phenomenal season that Bobby Bonilla had in 1990. He hit 32 homers with 120 RBIs, both career highs. Not only do the fans love and admire him, his teammates do too. That's because Bonilla is much more than a great player. He's also a remarkable person whose prosperity is more meaningful when you consider the route he's taken to the major leagues.
Bobby is a person that was born in the Bronx, not poor, but not too far from it, with a outlook on life like a king. You know, his outlook on life was very simple, very relaxing, very happy. You would never think Bobby even came from a poor neighborhood. You would never even think that he came from a rough neighborhood. You wouldn't even think of it the way that he is. Bobby never gets mad. I mean, I try and do it every day. I try and get him mad to get him fired up for the game, and he's still happy.
Bonilla was asked to switch positions this season from third base to right field, but not even that upset him. Rather than moans and groans, he responded with an array of plays.
Coleman swings a fly ball right field. Bonilla going back, and Bobby reaches down and makes the catch. Runner at second, 2 outs. Fly ball to right. Bobby with a great catch in right field to end the inning.
I'm just myself, you know. I could say some weird things and that, but I won't, but because it hasn't fazed me in any way. I'm no different than anybody else. I just happen to play baseball at a different level, that's all.
If Modesty had an all-star team, Bobby would captain. He did make the National League squad for the 3rd year in a row. If there was one obstacle the Pirates could not overcome, it was the Montreal Expos. In early June, in the season's first series between the two teams, the Expos started a trend of beating the Buccos into the ground.
Edward gets away from LaValliere. Another run will score. It's 2-0 as Walker touches home.
Against other teams, the Pirates could do little wrong. But against the Expos, it seemed nothing went right. Montreal won 2 of the 3 games, including one where they scored 3 in the 9th. The Expos left town, but unfortunately, the Bucks' woes continued. 3 days later, the Pirates made their second trip of the season to New York for 4 games with the Mets. The Bucks held an 8.5-game lead over New York, but by the way they were playing, it was tough to tell who was in first and who was in fourth.
Looking for the bunt to third baseman. A great bunt by Ojeda. Slot goes to second base and fires it into center field. Ground ball. King. Error on the third baseman. Jose can't get there. A base hit into right field. Magadan on his way to third. Bobby stumbled a bit in right field, and he throws the ball into the box seats. Magadan will score. 1-0 New York.
The Bucks committed 11 errors in the 4 games, which is why they lost 3 of them. And their record, which had skyrocketed north in the standings, was suddenly headed south. Fortunately, a trip west was forthcoming. In April, the Pirates had shown how the West was whipped. And here in early July, they did it again, winning 7 of 10 games.
And yes, indeed, Barry Bonds, a 2-run homer.
Another killer bee.
Number 6 for Sid Bream, RBIs 28 and 29.
In San Francisco, the Bucks dropped the first game, but won the next 2 as the defense showed signs of catching up to the offense. Then it was down the coast to San Diego, where Pirate pitchers threw 17 consecutive shutout innings. Clearly, the left coast was making things right.
Pirates win their 3rd in a row on the trip. They beat San Diego, and there was no doubt about it.
In Los Angeles, the Pirates continued feasting on California cuisine, taking 3 of 4 from the Dodgers. The West Coast cruise concluded a prosperous first half of the season.
The Buccos will go to the break with a half-game lead over the New York Mets in the National League East, and the Pirates now lead Montreal by 3.5. So a good first half effort by the Buccos in the 81 games of the first half, 49 wins and 32 losses.
Pittsburgh sent 4 representatives to the All-Star game in Chicago. And though the Mets had won 26 of 31, the Pirates were still in first place at the break for the first time since '75.
He's a very key part to the offense. I mean, when he gets it going, a lot of special things can happen.
How about this one? Who is the greatest baseball player of all time? And the dog said, "Woo!" And Barr said, "Tennis, that's enough. Get out of here." Picked him up and threw him out. They're both laying on the ground. Dog looked at the owner and said, "DiMaggio?"
Andy Van Slyke may not be another Joe DiMaggio, but his play is nothing to laugh at. The Pirates' Gold Glove center fielder spent another year on the skids, which for him means an outstanding season. Offensively, his bat made lots of noise.
Base hit. Backman scores the tie of the game. Here comes Jay Bell. He will score. The Buccos lead 2-1. Andy Van Slyke with a 2-run triple.
A common ingredient among winning teams is a steadying clubhouse leader, and despite being more than somewhat off balance at times, Van Slyke is just that. He always finds something to poke fun at, often himself, and he's an excellent communicator, to which his teammates will testify. You can imagine that over the course of a season, certain pressures build up, which is why the Bucks are fortunate to have Van Slyke as their designated reliever, ready to come in and cool things off whenever he's needed. Which isn't always, but it's all part of Van Slyke's basic philosophy, that the game of baseball is just that.
This game has been built for one purpose, and that's for a bunch of grown men to get together and act like a bunch of little kids.
There is nothing worse than sitting on the bench with a regular who is used to being out there and involved in every play and having one of those days when he is not playing. They're like little kids.
Andy may be the Pirates' biggest little kid, and he's loved for it. And hopefully, the older he gets, the younger he'll stay. While the Pirates and Expos appeared amiable enough off the field, on the field was another matter. Montreal continued to give the Bucks enormous headaches, repeatedly preventing them from stretching their first-place lead.
And that's it. The Expos have just swept the first-place Bucks in this 3-game series.
The Pirates dropped 4 of their first 6 games with the Expos, a bad showing which in 1990 would never get much better. It's hard to explain why, but games against the Expos usually left the Bucks in uncomfortable situations. The bizarre game on the night of July 25th best illustrates the trouble the Pirates had with Montreal all season. The Expos were the first to let the game slip away as the Bucks rallied from a 3-2 deficit in the top of the ninth. After a Jose Lean single tied the game, Jay Bell batted with 2 out and 2 on.
And a line drive, base hit. The Buccos take the lead 4-3. Jay Bell comes through on an 0-2 pitch and singles to left field.
But the Expos bounced back in the bottom of the ninth. Junior Noboa batted with no outs and a man on.
A camper, that's trouble in left center field. Grissom is going to score. This game is tied 4-4.
The game headed to extra innings, where the Bucks wasted no time putting together a rally. In the 10th, Lean batted with runners at first and third and 1 out.
Base hit into right field. Jeff King scores, and the Pirates are back in front 5-4. Jose Lean. He came through in the 9th, and he does it again here in the 10th inning.
The Pirates added 2 more runs for a comfortable 7-4 lead, and Jim Leland called upon his 6th pitcher of the day, Stan Belinda, to preserve it. After giving up a run, Belinda faced Marquise Grissom with 2 men on.
The runners are not going. The 3-2 pitch and a fly ball to deep left center field. And Montreal has won it. Marquise Grissom, it's a 3-run homer off Stan Belinda. The Expos score 4 in the bottom of the 10th inning to win it 8-7.
The Expos were dominating the season series, but Pirates general manager Larry Doty was able to get something good out of them, Zane Smith. Earlier in the season, Smith had beaten Doug Drabek, knocking the Bucks out of first place for the first time in nearly a month. In August, though, Smith didn't beat the Pirates. He joined them and brought Zane Mania to Three Rivers. He embraced his new team by winning his first 4 decisions.
Zane Smith all the way.
Well, they acquired Zane Smith in hopes of getting performances like this.
Ground ball. Jay Bell to Lean on the post. Got a pair, and the Bucks win it. Zane Smith gets his 4th complete game.
Acquiring Smith was one of several moves Doty engineered down the stretch. Some thought that giving up 3 young players was too high a price. The Pirates didn't see it that way.
We knew that we gave up a lot, but I think people tried to make it look like we didn't know what we were doing. We knew exactly what we were doing. We were giving up a lot for what we felt we were going to get back in return, and that was a solid left-handed pitcher, and we felt that it was important for us to take our shot at it. So Zane Smith came in and really solidified our pitching staff, especially during the time when the Walks and the Heatons and the Smileys were struggling a little bit.
Smith went 6-2 for the Bucks with a 1.30 ERA. Impressive numbers for a staff unusually large in number itself. A league record 19 different pitchers won games for the Pirates this season. Some were recognizable names like Bill Landrum and Neil Heaton. Everyone's familiar with Bob Walk, but what about Mark Ross, who did what few Pirate pitchers were able to do, beat the Expos? If you remember him, then you must also remember Mark Huseman, who beat the Cardinals. But can you name all 19 winning pitchers? Can anybody? It isn't easy.
Well, I wasn't one of them.
Man, that's a hard question.
Okay, come on, think.
All right, let's go. Kipper.
A kid, Scott Ruskin, who we traded to Montreal.
Terrell. Let's see.
Mike Rossler won a big game for us. You know, York really won a big game in Cincinnati for us.
Jay Tibbs.
Patterson.
19. I can't believe 19 different ones won games.
Stan Belinda.
Rick Creed.
Power. This is Tomlin.
John Smiley.
That's 18 so far, but there's still one more. Who's number 19?
Oh, yeah, number 19. That was me.
Not only did his pitching become better, but all parts of the game became better. And when you add that to such a quality guy and a quality person, it's really fun to watch.
He's in the top 5 right now. He's, hopefully he's going to be at the head of the class this year, and well deserved.
Doug Drabek emerged as the unchallenged ace of the pitching staff. He led the team in wins, starts, complete games, innings pitched, and strikeouts. His league-leading 22 wins were the most by a Pirate since Bob Friend's 22 in 1958. Drabek's best game of the year came on the night of August 3rd in Philadelphia, when he was seemingly unhittable. The Pirates lit up Veterans Stadium with an 18-hit attack, muscling Philadelphia pitchers all night.
Andy with a drive to deep right field. That is gone. Andy hits a 2-run homer. The Pirates lead 11-0. The Pirate Power Company.
The 11 runs all came in the first 5 innings and were 10 more than Drabek needed. After retiring Von Hayes on a lazy flyout, Drabek had worked 7 full innings of no-hit ball. In the 8th inning, Drabek needed a second to keep the no-hitter intact. Not a second in time, but a second baseman, and there are few better than Jose Lean. This play for the first out of the 8th was routine. But then the next batter was tough lefty John Kruk, and when Kruk jumped on Drabek's pitch, a routine play wouldn't be enough.
When he hit it, I just kind of figured that's a base hit. No one's going to catch that. And then I looked at the corner of my eye, and there was Chico stretched out on the ground, catching it, coming up and throwing him out. And I said to myself, I said, something good's got to come out of that. I figured, with a play like that, and we're this close to this situation, I said, that's got to be a good sign for something.
With only 3 outs to go, Superstition found a seat in the Pirate dugout.
Rick Reed was sitting next to him. He wouldn't really look at him. He was looking out of the corner of his eyes, and everybody knows what's going on.
I was starting to talk to some people just to get it out of my mind, and no one would talk to me. I kind of felt alone in there.
In the 9th, Drabek made a bid for history, trying to throw the first Pirate no-hitter since John Candelaria's in 1976. Ricky Jordan was the second out.
Got him!
I thought he was going to get it, and then, for selfish reasons, too, you think about, well, this would be my first no-hitter as a manager, in the big leagues. And, you're trying to figure a way where you did something to contribute, and you know damn well you didn't do anything. But it was a great night, and, you got 3-2 count, and you got a fastball. It was actually a ball, and Capizano got a base hit.
And there goes the no-hitter. Mercy.
Sure, there's a little bit of disappointment in there when you come that close, but you also have to realize that the main thing is winning, the team winning. And, I was very happy for that, very happy to see some of the plays the guys made for me in the outfield and infield. So a little bit of disappointment, but I think the main thing was I was happy because we won the game.
When the figures were in at the end of the season, Drabek was the clear choice for the National League Cy Young Award, joining Vernon Law as the only Pirates ever to win the award. Drabek's hard work has paid off abundantly. Although he had averaged about 13 wins a season since arriving from the Yankees, he was still known as a second-half pitcher, but not anymore.
He's a very repetitious type guy. He stays after it. He works real hard. He works real hard between starts. As the season goes on, he gets better. I think as his career goes on, he'll get better.
It may be tough just imagining a better year than this one, which was unmistakably one of the best ever by a Pirate pitcher. 12 of Drabek's career-high 22 wins came after a Pirate loss. He also put together 2 6-game winning streaks. And he became the first National League pitcher in 13 years to win successive Pitcher of the Month honors. At 28 years old, Doug will have plenty of celebrating to do in the Pirates' future. In the present, though, the Pirates had reason for concern. Going into the last day of August, they led the Mets by just a game and a half. The final 5 weeks of the season would come down to a tale of two cities. On August 31st in New York, former Pirate Don Robinson was helping out his old club by shutting down the Mets. With a 3-1 lead, Robinson struck out Darrell Boston for the second out of the ninth. The Mets were in danger of falling further out of first place. At the same time, more than halfway across the country in the Astrodome, the Pirates led Houston 2-0 in the ninth and were on the verge of picking up a full game on the Mets. Back in New York, Giants manager Roger Craig decided that Robinson had had enough and made a pitching change. In Houston, the Astros had scored a run, so Jim Leyland decided to make his own pitching change. Back at Shea, the Mets scored and now trailed 3-2. Kevin McReynolds was up with a tying run on second.
And here's the 1-2 pitch. Up the middle, a base hit, and the Mets will tie up the ball game. Strawberry on his way to third, the throw into second, and the Mets have tied it with 2 runs here in the ninth inning.
The next batter was Howard Johnson, who made things much worse.
And the pitch is hit down the right field corner. It might drop in. It does, and the Mets win the ball game. The Mets with 3 runs in the ninth inning. And they win it by a score of 4-3.
The come-from-behind bug was contagious in Houston. The Pirates were on the verge of blowing their ninth inning lead. Bob Patterson faced Franklin Stubbs.
Line drive to right. Bonilla comes on. And this will tie the game at 2.
The Astros had scored 2 runs on 3 consecutive hits and now had the winning run at first.
That's a base hit. And the winning run down at second base with 2 outs.
4 straight hits.
Here comes Leyland with Wilson to pinch hit. He wants Landrum. And bad news. Mets pick up at least 2 runs in the bottom half of the ninth inning and beat the San Francisco Giants 4-3. Swung on, line drive, and the Astros have won it. Houston has won it by a score of 3-2 on 5 consecutive base hits. And with the Pirates bullpen failing, the Buck lead over the New York Mets team has been reduced to a mere half game.
5 days later, the lead was still a half game when the Mets came to town for a pivotal 3-game series, which would seriously affect the bragging rights of the East.
Drabek's the best pitcher. He's better than anyone in New York. Viola, he's better than Viola. Bonilla, better than Strawberry. We're the best. Mets are going to win, though. No, they're not. No, they're not. You're going to go home like this.
We're going to come back here about a game up. We're going to toy with them the first 2 games in October and then win on October 3rd. We're toying with them. We're toying with them.
In the first game, the Mets were toy soldiers against the real-life ammunition of Zane Smith. After allowing a leadoff single in the first, Smith retired 27 of the next 28 batters en route to his first career one-hitter. The Pirates didn't do much better offensively, though, until they loaded the bases in the ninth. The game was scoreless. A fly ball would win it. Barry Bonds was at the plate with 1 out.
With a 2-2 pitch, Barry swings a fly ball left field. That is deep enough to win it. Barry Bonds comes through with a base hit to deep left field, and the Pirates win the ball game in the bottom of the ninth inning. Barry gets his 100th RBI, and the Pirates have a game-and-a-half lead over the New York Mets.
The largest crowd of the season enjoyed the first game of the doubleheader, and it only got better in the nightcap, thanks to Jeff King, who drove in all of the Bucks' runs.
The drive to deep left center field. Go ball, get out of here. It is gone. Jeff King has his first 2-home run game in the big leagues, and the Pirates have a 3-0 lead over the New York Mets.
Bob Kipper and Ted Power combined on 4 scoreless innings of relief, securing the doubleheader sweep and opening up the first-place lead to 2.5 games. The next day, the Bucks looked for the series sweep and went to great lengths to get it.
Bonds going back in the corner, and Barry makes the catch.
The Bucks had 5 runs by the third, a nice present for rookie Randy Tomlin, who would get married the following week. Tomlin threw himself a memorable bachelor party with a complete game 3-hitter.
Bonilla and Van Slyke. Van Slyke is there. He's got it. And the Bucks have completed a 3-game sweep of the New York Mets as the Bucks limit the Mets to just 2 runs in this series and go up 3.5 games on New York.
Well, it's not that important at all right now. There's 25 games left, and we can get swept by Montreal, and they win the next 3 games. The next minute, they're half a game out. Since '86, the Mets have been the top team, and as far as on this side, to us, they will be the top team until it's the end.
Jim has brought the confidence that we needed as a club to the club. He can joke around with you. You can go into his office and talk to him and that type of thing. But at the same time, when he commands or demands respect, he gets it.
Barry Bonds is a tremendous talent. I would assume that he's going to have Hall of Fame credentials by the time he's done.
He's done a heck of a job this year of really just telling people he can play the game. And you have to tip your hat to him. He's had a tremendous, tremendous year in '90.
Barry Bonds is a marvelously versatile performer. He methodically victimizes pitchers, often resulting in RBIs, one of his many valiant practices. He is a master of velocity and power, which helped him dash his way into the record books as just the 2nd player ever to hit 30 homers and steal 50 bases in the same season. It made Bonds proud, but not satisfied.
It was something that 2 players in the game has ever done, and I was one of them. And I know that I did the 30-50, but I know that I don't feel complete. There's something else that I have to do in this game before I leave. That's how I felt at that time. There's more to this than just a 30-50 in my career.
Bonds joined superstar Eric Davis in the exclusive 30-50 club. Like Davis, Barry does it all.
Any given night, he can beat you 5 ways. Hitting with power, throwing, stealing the base. That's 4, and I'll think of the 5th one later.
The 5th one is fielding, Andy. You know that, because Barry credits you and his other teammates for helping him this year.
They have made me what I am today. I'm going to take half the credit because I had to hit and had to run to do it, but I couldn't have done it without them out there. It sounds so easy. Barry's doing this and Barry's doing that, and he's having this great year. Barry wouldn't have this great year without Wally and Andy and Jay Bell and Bobby Bonilla. It just wouldn't happen.
Barry Bonds, a most valuable player. On September 12th, the Pirates returned to New York for a crucial 2-game showdown with the Mets. The Pirates would try to stretch their 3.5-game lead. The Mets, of course, had other ideas. Jim Leyland was his usual calm self before the first game, while his counterpart, Bud Harrelson, was looking for some way to ignite the Mets. Harrelson's strategy apparently worked because the Mets lit up John Smiley in the first inning. The big blow came from Dave Magadan.
A base hit into right center. That will score Jeffries. Van Slyke and Bonilla bump into each other. Miller will score. The Mets have a 2-0 lead.
But Smiley settled down and pitched his best game since missing 6 weeks with a hand injury. For the Mets, David Cone pitched a brilliant game, allowing just 3 hits and at one point retiring 13 in a row. But in the 9th, trailing by 1, Sid Bream almost got to him.
Deep right field. Strawberry goes back, and he makes the catch.
1 out later, the Mets had taken the first game and moved a game closer to first place.
David Cone, the complete game, as New York is now 2.5 out of first place in the National League East.
The Buccos were eager to leave New York with a split. What they got was an impressive performance by Barry Bonds, who played like a one-man band. Bonds went 4 for 4 off Dwight Gooden and drove in 2 of the Pirates' 3 runs. And while Bonds was supplying runs for the Pirates at the plate, he was taking them away from the Mets in the field.
Here's a shot to left field. Bonds, does he have room? He does! Oh, what a catch by Barry Bonds!
On the base path, though, Barry's show bombed. Not only was he thrown out trying to steal third base, he was also cut down at home when he tried to score on a single.
Ground ball, base hit into right field. Bonds being waved around third. Here's Strawberry, throw to the plate, and Barry Bonds is out.
The Mets took a 6-3 lead into the ninth, and John Franco preserved it. The Mets got revenge for being swept in Pittsburgh.
John Franco notches his 32nd save as the Mets have won both games of the series, pick up 2 in the standings, and trail the Pirates now by a game and a half.
While the Mets were busy patting themselves on the back for their sweep, the Pirates stayed calm. No reason to break out the Kleenex.
Well, I don't see anybody crying right now. Let me see. Looks pretty good. I'm just being honest. Nobody looks the way it usually does after a loss. You know, pretty even keel. Everybody's eating. Yeah, the spread went pretty good. Everything's looking good.
Actually, things weren't looking so good because after New York, the Pirates had to play 3 in Montreal. And if you've been paying attention, you know that pretty much suggests a no-win situation.
The Shields and the Expos have beaten the Bucks. Montreal winning 12 of the first 17 games with the Pirates.
The Pirates lost all 3 to Montreal, 13 of 18 on the season, and then got blown out in Chicago. John Smiley lasted for just 1/3 of an inning, getting tattooed for 6 runs in the process. Fortunately, the Bucks weren't the only team losing. The Mets, too, were at a loss for wins. New York's finest dropped 2 of 3 to the Phillies and then stepped into the path of a Canadian freight train, the Pirates' nemesis from the north.
And the Montreal Expos have swept the series from the New York Mets after sweeping 3 from Pittsburgh in Montreal.
So on September 19th, not only had the Pirates' lead dwindled, but a third team had entered the race. Despite the Pirates' 6-game losing streak, the Mets were still in second place. And on a day when the wind was blowing out in Wrigley, the Bucks planned on keeping them there. Barry Bonds, who became the first Pirate ever to join the 30-30 club, hit 2 home runs as the Pirates looked for their first win in 8 days. Doug Drabek was looking for his 20th win of the season and seemed well on his way to getting it with an 8-1 lead after 7.5 innings. In the bottom of the 8th, though, the tone of the game changed rapidly as the big lead began to crumble. The Cubs were getting to Drabek. Ryan Sandberg's 1-out single drove in 2 runs, narrowing the gap to 8-3. And the Cubs were not done yet. Drabek left with 2 runners on and a 5-run lead. Just 2 batters later, Derek May's first Major League home run made the score 8-7. In the 9th, the Cubs put the tying run on second with 2 outs. But Bob Patterson got a ground out to end the game. The losing streak was over, and the light at the end of the tunnel was glowing for the home stretch. Vicente Palacios came on board as a September enforcer, picking up saves in 3 consecutive appearances. And though he wasn't eligible for the playoffs, he significantly helped the Pirates' chances of getting there. There were many eyes on Doug Drabek when he won his 21st game of the season, a complete game win over the Cubs. In that game, Pirate fans broke their single-season attendance record, which was something to sing about. Wishful thinking? Maybe. Out of tune? Definitely. Out of line? No way. Zane Smith helped sweep the Cubs, eliminating the Expos from the race. And as the Pirates came into St. Louis, it didn't matter what the Mets were doing because the Bucks kept on winning. Jay Bell chipped in, not with a bunt, but a home run, helping the Pirates to their 5th straight win. The next day, Bob walked through his first shutout since '88, which coupled with the Mets' loss, clinched a tie for the division title. The magic number was finally down to 1. With a chance to win the Bucks' first title in exactly 11 years to the day, the Pirates put their best man forward. Doug Drabek responded by throwing a masterpiece. Through 5 innings, the Cardinals squeaked out only 3 hits. And in the 6th, he retired the side on just 3 pitches. Unfortunately, the Pirates were having as much trouble with Cardinals lefty Joe McGrain, who retired the first 11 batters in order and allowed just 1 hit through 6. In the top of the 8th, the Bucks finally got something going. Don Slott led off with a single and moved to second on a single by Lean. And then on an 0-2 count to Drabek, the Pirates gambled.
There you go. It's down. No one's covering third. McGrain goes to first base. Not in time, and the bases are jammed.
The next batter was Gary Redus. With the way Drabek was pitching, all he needed was a sacrifice fly, and that's what he got. Pitch runner John Cangelosi scored the first run of the game. The Pirates added another and led 2-0. In the bottom of the 9th, only 3 outs separated the Pirates from the division title. The first batter was Jose Oquendo, who went down easily. Next up was Dave Collins, and Drabek took care of him. Now the Pirates were 1 out, 1 pitch away from what they had worked for all year.
Now Doug's 1-0 pitch, a ground ball. This will do it. Jose Lean has it. He flips to Sid Bream. The ball game is over. The Pittsburgh Pirates have defeated the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Pirates, for the first time since 1979, are the champions of the National League Eastern Division. The Pirates defeat the St. Louis Cardinals, and there was no doubt about it.
Fittingly, Jim Leyland's feet weren't touching the ground. 5 years earlier, his first Pirate team had finished last. Now, they were division champs. There was no shortage of hugs and handshakes in the locker room. Call it the old-fashioned way, but the Pirates earned their division title, and with it, the right to celebrate.
Mom, Dad, honey. Love y'all. No, not my new hat. Sorry. Okay.
Well, as a manager, you can't get too emotional before the game's over, because excuse me, guys.
Surely you can forgive Leyland for getting a little carried away. The man who would later be named Manager of the Year had bravely led his team to an accomplishment few thought possible. But while one major battle had been won, another was yet to come.
Our job is not done. It is not complete. It is a nice ride, but it's not complete.
The regular season's final 3 games against the Mets were presumed to be vital, but now there were more important things to do. Later that night, the 1990 National League East champs returned home to Pittsburgh, and more than 10,000 fans flocked to the airport to welcome them. Instead of sending thank you letters, the fans came in person and chanted them. More wishful thinking by thankful fans. The Pirates had much less of a reception at the next airport in which they landed. That's because it was in Cincinnati, home of the National League West champion Reds, who would host the first 2 games of the best-of-7 playoffs. The last time Pittsburgh made the playoffs, they began in this very building. 11 years later, they were back. In the first inning of the first game, the winds of misfortune seemed to be blowing against the Bucks.
And a base hit. Reagan ball, base hit. Bonilla boots the ball. Here comes the second run. Reagan ball, base hit. That makes it 3-0. A double for O'Neill with 1 out, and the Reds are rocking.
Before the Pirates had a chance to look up, they were down 3-0, but the Buccos didn't die. In the third, Jose Lean tripled, and when Paul O'Neill tripped, Mike LaValliere came around and scored. The Bucks were still down by 2, but they were climbing back into the game. The Reds still had the lead and high hopes, but both were dashed by one swing of Sid Bream's bat.
This one is going, gone! And the Bucks have tied the game at 3.
Bream's home run cleaned the slate and helped Bob Walk settle down. Walk proceeded to erase batter after batter, holding the Reds scoreless from the second inning on. In the 7th, the Pirates got a little lucky. Andy Van Slyke's fly ball was misplayed into a ground rule double by Eric Davis. Gary Reedus scored, and the Pirates took a 4-3 lead. Ted Power recorded the last 2 outs of the 9th, and Game 1 belonged to the Bucks. A win in Game 2 would have given the Pirates a commanding lead, but it didn't happen. This time, the Pirates' luck was all bad. Doug Drabeck gave up just 5 hits in 8 innings, but in the 5th, Barry Bonds misplayed Paul O'Neill's fly ball, enabling the go-ahead run to score. O'Neill punished the Bucks in the field, too. His 2nd assist of the series wiped out the potential tying run in the 6th. The Bucks lost 2-1, but all was still well.
It's only 2 games, guys. First of all, we won the first game 4-3. The second game, we lost 2-1. I mean, they're not even hitting either.
Game 3 was back in Pittsburgh, but the homecoming wasn't a joyous one. The Reds got power from unexpected sources, like former Pirate Billy Hatcher, whose second-inning home run gave the Reds a 2-0 lead. The Bucks came back and tied the game, but it wasn't enough. Mariano Duncan's 3-run homer in the 5th put the game out of reach, and the Reds won 6-3, taking a 2-1 lead in the series. A reminder of glories past made an appearance at Game 4, but it had little effect on the present situation. It was a bad sign for the Pirates when the out sign kept erasing their scoring opportunities. The Reds outfielders led the league in assists in 1990, which is something Bobby Bonilla and all Pirate fans won't soon forget. Bonilla nearly tied the game with a home run in the 8th, but instead, he was gunned down at 3rd.
Bonilla around second, he's got to hurry. Here's the throw to 3rd, Bobby's down, and he's out.
The Reds won 5-3, taking a 3-1 lead in the series. Game 5 presented another opportunity for the Pirates to turn things around, and that's exactly what they did. In front of a fired-up crowd, the Bucks came out swinging. The Reds had taken a 1-0 lead at the top of the 1st, but Andy Van Slyke tripled in the bottom of the inning, scoring Jay Bell from first. The score remained 1-1 until the bottom of the 4th, when the Bucks took the lead. With 2 on and nobody out, Don Slott hit a fly ball to center. There isn't an outfielder on the planet who could have thrown out Barry Bonds on this play, and the Pirates had their first lead since Game 2. They added another run for a 3-1 lead and entrusted it to Doug Drabeck, who pitched another outstanding game. At one point, he retired 13 batters in a row. And when the Reds threatened to score in the 8th, Drabeck pitched the Pirates out of danger. He allowed just 1 earned run through 8 1/3 innings, avenging his loss in Game 2. The Reds threatened again in the 9th. Trailing by only 1, they loaded the bases with 1 out. With Bob Patterson on the mound, Bobby Bonilla made the play.
Ground ball. Third baseman Bonilla has it. He fires the second to Lane for 1 on the first. Double play. The ball game's over.
The Pirates won 3-2 and were still alive. There was no masking the importance of Game 6 in Cincinnati. It was another do-or-die game for the Bucks. Surprise starter Ted Power pitched well in his only start of the season, although the Reds took an early 1-0 lead. In the 5th, Carmelo Martinez followed a Barry Bonds walk with a double over the head of Paul O'Neill, tying the score at 1 apiece. Scheduled starter Zane Smith relieved Power in the 3rd and was constantly in trouble. For the most part, though, he was able to get himself out of it. The Pirates still had hope, and it appeared that Game 7 might take place after all. But in the 7th, pinch hitter Luis Quinones singled, giving the Reds a 2-1 lead. Smith had surrendered just 1 run in 4 innings, but it was a costly run. In the top of the 8th, with 2 outs and the tying run on second, Van Slyke faced Randy Myers, who had already saved 2 of the 3 Reds wins. Myers had been nearly unhittable against lefties, which Van Slyke rediscovered. The Reds were now 3 outs away from the National League pennant. With 1 on and 1 out in the ninth, Carmelo Martinez made thousands of Reds fans stop breathing until 6'4" Glenn Braggs caught his fly ball. A home run might have changed the series. The out all but ended it. The 1990 National League champs were the Cincinnati Reds, not the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates fought hard, but came up 2 games short. Still, they held their heads high and had every reason to.
Heck, we wanted to go to the World Series, most definitely, but sometimes, you know, the chips don't always fall where they should, and Cincinnati deserved everything they got. I mean, they really played good baseball. All we can do is reflect on the good season, and come spring training, we know what it takes to win now.
The Pirates do know what it takes to win. They proved it all season long, finishing with the 2nd best record in all of baseball. They began the year at a crossroads, either struggle along the back streets of the division or repave the path of glory. The road they chose is clear. They ensured that the future of baseball in Pittsburgh is as bright as the smiles on their faces following one of their 97 wins. Only one team wins the World Series. Certainly the other 25 can't all be losers. The 1990 Pirates were winners. They are winners. And in a way that might not be tangible, they raised the confidence of those who watched them play. Say it with pride. The Pittsburgh Pirates, 1990 National League Eastern Division champions. If a team played in front of an empty stadium, winning would seem less substantial. The Pirates need not worry about that. Over 2 million fans filled Three Rivers this year, a Pirate record. You fans not only witnessed a rebirth of baseball in Pittsburgh, you were part of it.
Well, I'd just like to say that we had a great year. Both of us had a great year. You guys did, and I think we did too. And I think one thing that we all have to remember is that we can't take you for granted, and hopefully you won't take us for granted. And I'm on my plea of mercy here, so to speak, because to keep baseball in Pittsburgh, we need you to keep coming out to support this baseball team. And we're going to try to continue to do everything we can to provide you with a winner.